Welcome, everybody, to Racing Club International. And of course, this is our season finale for season 2 of the Gt4 Championship. Cannot wait to see how this gets going. I mean, we've pretty much traveled the entire world at this rate. And this round, we're out at Laguna Seca in the US of A. We've got 2 races coming at you. My name is George Smith. And as always, on a Thursday night, joined in the box by Sam Wright. Sam, how's it going on your end of the world?
I'm really excited to be here. I'm so stoked for our last two races in the Racing Club International Gt4 Championship Series. Uh, We've pretty much confirmed the winner of the series, but there is still, and I think we've confirmed second place as well, but there's still a podium position up for grabs. So we'll get to watch these drivers battle. And of course, George, we've been following them around the world for the last 6 weeks. So I've become quite attached to them. I'm going to miss them after this.
Me too. I mean, we were out at Imola, Nürburgring, Hungaroring, Barcelona, Suzuka last week, and now out at Laguna Seca. So, I mean, it really has been so much fun to just kind of go all around and get to just host this championship. I think a little part of me also will be missing on a Thursday night. We'll be missing the GT4s and all of their drivers that have been on board. I mean, you kind of touched on that topic. Neto and Lima just kind of running away with the championship. I think they wrap that up without even having to show at the last race. They get to take a bit of a holiday and leave things open for 2 new winners. I mean, maybe even a whole new podium going to come through this evening. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to play for a lot of the drivers that are still in this. There's a lot of close point battles throughout the championship standings, and we'll have a look at those before we go live, just run through the current standing order. But I mean, for drivers out here, that's what it's about. You know, if you're not going to win it, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no point in racing, and you're still here for pride, trying to beat your fellow homies out on the circuit, teammates, etc. So some good racing to take place tonight.
Definitely going to see some good racing. And like you mentioned, we'll get to see some new victors for the first time because, of course, Miguel Neto, our winner of the championship series, he pretty much claimed, I think he had 7 wins. He's had an incredible run. And of course, his teammate from the Phoenix Racing Portugal, Tiago Lima, season 1's champion, finishes off in second place. So they'll be very happy with that. Neto, Lima, and a big congratulations to the Phoenix Racing team's performance. But like you said, now it's up. Now it's open season. So of course it's perfect. It's the last 2 races. You want to grab a win. That'll feel really good. And on top of that, there is still that 3rd position up for grabs, which is one of the podium positions that you want. Obviously, finishing in 3rd spot, that's going to be a nice one.
Of course, there's going to be a battle across the field, and I mean, Martin Lawrence, who we've been able to see quite a lot in the championship. I think he sits in P3 at the moment overall. That could be taken off of his hands by the likes of Jesperi Hilicalio. So maybe not going to, have a battle for the number 1 overall spot, but there's going to be some incredible knife fights. And we come out to Laguna Seca, which of course is a circuit that I'm quite familiar with. I've driven it a few times in a couple of championships and races myself. Haven't really got the chance to try the GT4s around here. So I'm hoping we get some nice close racing here.
So what do you expect from the Laguna track? George, walk me through it. What type of racing do you think we're going to get?
Um, I might be mocked for saying that it kind of reminds me of the American Brands Hatch, and I'm not really a big fan of Brands Hatch, so I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. But it's quite tight, it's quite twisty, it's sort of it's a struggle, I think, to get a good lap in here. And when you've got other cars on the track, you're battling for track position that you don't always have. There's really only one quick line around here. So I wouldn't expect to see too much side-by-side. And if there is side-by-side, I would expect that perhaps there would be a little bit of, let's say, battles that could progress from the back of the field if people are going side-by-side early on.
So it should be some really great racing. And of course, don't forget how this works. We have it'll be 12 at the end of this, 2 races. So the drivers will qualify, and the positions that they found themselves, their grid positions in quali will stick them through race 1 and race 2. And then they have 2 races to ultimately get some more points on the board.
Well, I mean, it's all about that, and we've seen just how good consistency can play out for you here. There's no point in just having one big good race and then throwing the second one away. And I mean, if you're not Neto and Limo, who have just been consecutively finishing either in first and second place, it kind of changed up the way that the championship would sit down. So I mean, we go live into qualifying now. This quali sets up the grid for both races that are to come. And then, of course, two 20-minute sprint or 30-minute sprint races for the drivers to see what they've got out here. It's going to be a goodie. As far as the weatherman has told us, it's going to be clear. So we're not going to have any rain coming down. And those are the perfect conditions for these drivers. So on board with Jesper Helicalio then, as he makes his way down at the start-finish straight into the braking zone for turn 2, the Andretti hairpin. This is a chaotic corner, I must just say, especially when there's lots of cars on the track. You've got the pit exit coming out on the left-hand side, and set yourself up for this pretty twisty turn 3. Got to make sure that you're hitting that inside apex. This turn 4 as well, try and carry as much momentum through. Got to be careful not to run out wide. If you touch the gravel traps here, you lose so much time. They're made of, I don't know what kind of sand, to be honest. I'd love to know, but it really does impact your drive and your slow going out of them. So turn 5, again, turn 5 and 6, these are critical points. I would say turn 6, where we approach now, the inside, as you make your way up the hill, you mess that up, you lose so much momentum on this climb. You don't have too much power to make up for that loss of speed. You could lose a lot of points or positions. Then you come into the braking zone at the top of the hill for this hairpin. The track just dips away and becomes nothingness around you. And then you make your way down and around turn 10, which will essentially be the second to last corner. Nice little straightaway. You see the pit lane on the left side, and then the braking zone for that final turn 11. So a very short track here. It's pretty sprint based. I mean, in terms of the layout, it should be perfect for the GT4s. And I believe it's good fun to drive around here. So 131.371 coming out from Helicalio will be topped immediately by Conway, a 131.323. And that will also then be topped by Fimbris Casas with a 130.858. So drivers starting to get those times in with 11 minutes to go.
11 minutes to go. Look at that, getting very, very competitive. We've been on board with Helicalio, who's actually currently sitting on 4th place on the Championship Series log. He is 5 points off Martin Lawrence, who's currently got that P3. So it'll be interesting to see that battle. I am a big fan, though, of the car we're watching right now. Fimbris Casas has had some incredible driving, currently sitting in 11th place. So he'll want to finish the series probably in the top 10. I think he'll be pretty fast. We've seen him before. He is quite fast. And of course, Tazcola in that Maserati. We got to talk about the Maseratis because they've just surprised us so much throughout the series. They've done an incredible job. Their best performances when the track was flooded, which was a surprise, George.
I mean, more than a surprise. We thought that the lack of traction control was going to be the bane of their existence when the rain came down, and it just showed what masterful drivers they actually were. They don't need those electronic assists, even when it's raining. So certainly interested to see where they sit. I mean, Sakola at the moment sitting in a temporary P3, 3 tenths behind the likes of Lawrence, who's our current pole sitter. So for the BMW fans in the chat, they'll be excited to see Lawrence sitting up at the top, but that will be immediately topped. Conway comes back in big. That Aston Martin goes pole with a 130.237. Fimbris Casas improves his time, slots in ahead of Lawrence, and drivers starting to bring the heat for sure and enjoying these conditions out there. 28 degrees is the track temperature, so that's pretty much almost perfect for what you want to be driving in.
So it will be we're hoping that the track conditions you're seeing right now and the weather might stick through into that first race, but ideal for qualifying. You can get a really nice fast lap in, which is exactly what you want to do. Some really good drivers as well. So I just want to talk about some of them that we've had a chance to see. McLaughlin, of course, in the 007 that we like to talk about. Martin Lawrence here is someone that I think you should watch. I've been a fan of his for a long time, not only in the GT4 series, but just because of his incredible ability to come from the back of the pack and move up, 10, 11, 12 positions. He is now trying to finish in that third place. He is very fast, so keep an eye on him. And then I want to give a little bit of a suggestion is that you want to watch Crozen as well. He is also in a BMW number 82. He's just throughout the season got better and better. Helikalio here though, another one in the Porsche to watch. Some really good drivers all through them. I obviously can't give a shout out to every single one of them, but they're all there. And I think that it's going to be a really exciting final 2 races.
It is going to be exciting. I mean, looking here at the likes of Billy Octane. So Billy Octane, Pavel Jarzabowski, and Harry Conway, they pretty much just a couple of points apart. And that's the battle then for 7th, 8th, and 9th overall. So Billy Octane will be wanting to put in a good performance here. I know that Octane and Conway, of course, are teammates. So the rivalry, the sibling-like rivalry will be out. And right now, Billy Octane sitting quite far down the order compared to his teammate Conway. And Conway did point out to me that he's had to miss a couple of races to be in his position, and that Billy doesn't actually have too much of an excuse not to finish ahead. So a nice little bit of banter coming down. Ryan Gill is back, our man behind a lot of the admin work here at Racing Club International, does some broadcasting, does a lot of the commentating. And of course, his cute little Alpine is back out.
It is back out. Has it had a little bit of a livery change? It's seeming very pink.
It's very inverted
pink today.
Very. We had the baby blue as the main color scheme in the previous races that we saw him in, but of course the Triple R colors coming out and representing, and a little bit of a inverted scheme coming out. So certainly a much cuter car now.
Much cuter, nice and bright on the track, Ryan. Just for us, we're going to refer to you as cute for the rest of this. Qualifying time now starting to whittle down. Under 7 minutes to go to get those times in. Very, very competitive. You can see at the top there. I think this is going to be a very competitive next 2 races. Lots of, I think, battles at the top. So this was something like George mentioned earlier. Throughout this GT4 Championship Series, we haven't had a chance to see because our series champion has kind of taken the lead and just dominated that top spot. This is going to give us a great opportunity to see some battles right at the front, George.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we've seen a very Porsche dominant finish up at the front of the order, which I'm not sad about. I'll be honest. I was kind of one of the talking points that I was thinking about before we went live today, and before we found out that Lima and Neto had actually signed out. I thought, how good will that be to say that I'm pretty sure Porsche has been up at the top of every single finishing position in the races. So might have to eat those words, but I've still got faith. Helikalio and Harsefwitz in my good old favorite manufacturer, sitting quite far down on the timing sheet during quali. But we've seen how different races can be to these qualifying sessions. You set yourself up, and you can't just sort of time what's going to happen. Smith in his Camaro. I mean, the Camaros would want to have a good big finish here in the US of A. Fimbres Casas leading the way in 6th place. Smith looking good here in that 443 to better his time. I mean, if you look down the order, it's 1st to 11th are separated by less than a second during these quali laps that they've set. So I mean, that's incredibly close. The grid a little bit smaller than what we're used to seeing, but that's kind of the nature of what happens when you get towards the end of a championship. Not everybody can make it the full duration, and for those that I don't want to call them sore losers, but for some people, it's just like, I'm not going to win it. I'm not going to do this. I don't feel like doing another race. And those things kind of happen.
So Thiago Lima has let us know that they actually have a 6-hour race on Saturday and they needed to practice for that. Also, obviously, the Phoenix Racing team has already claimed 1st and 2nd in the series. So they're giving everyone else a chance. We'll suggest that that's the case. But you can see by this field that everyone's coming in. A lot of these names currently sitting in the top 20. And of course, we'll go through that after qualifying, which means they're all trying to fight it out, I think, to just position themselves a lot better on that leaderboard and ultimately be able to, you want to judge yourself each season, see if you can improve. And I'm sure that's the goal for a lot of these drivers.
For sure. And I mean, it's all about just improving and having some good racing out there. I appreciate Lima still supporting us in the chat side of things, even for the race.
Definitely nice for him to come in and show us some love. So thank you, Lima. We'll miss you on the track, but I'm glad that we'll get to see a few other cars and a few other drivers now competing for that first and second position. Like we mentioned earlier, we've had a chance to watch the Phoenix Racing team, the two teammates battle it out nonstop. But now it's an opportunity for these new drivers to jump in and get in on the action. Currently watching Martin Menno Crozen. So the Crozen brothers actually started together. You'll notice that there is only one Crozen now. That's because the other Crozen brother had to study. But Menno Crozen's improved throughout the season. We've watched him just get better and better, and I think he's quite a competitive driver. And he had a really good two good races last week, which means there's an opportunity now for him to really improve on the standings. Currently sitting in 5th spot on the series leaderboard, so this is going to be an exciting one for him, George.
Oh, I mean, it's exciting for a lot of this field, and it's been so nice to just kind of learn the drivers as we've gone throughout the season. It feels like it's gone by a lot faster than it actually has. It's been a lot of grueling rounds, of course, 2 races per week that we come out here. So a nice format change as well to what normally gets run, where it's just a single long sprint race or a maybe a longer endurance. It's just been a lot of fun to kind of develop and see what these drivers have to offer. And talking about that as well, looking at Tom Bryant here, that just kind of reminds me of the battle for the RCI wooden spoon, because we've got a lot of RCI staff members racing in this. Martin Smith, Phil Roberts, and Tom Bryant all battling it out in that position. We've kind of been able to, well, we've kind of learned that every time I bet on Phil Roberts, I lose my money. But I'm still hoping for that 225 Janetta, currently sitting in 13th place on the qualifier. I'm a sucker for punishments. What can I say?
Of course. So you'll put your money on Phil Roberts. We're okay with that. He also likes it. He knows that you're cheering him on. It's important to him. I'm not going to put my money on anyone because this is way too close. Just looking at qualifying with less than 2 minutes to go and how close those top 5 times are, I don't. If I was a betting woman, I'd want to make sure I was making a sure bet, and I don't think that there is one there. Very competitive from all of these drivers, and names that we're now familiar with. If you've been following the series, you'll recognize those names as well. So this is going to be, I think, a very fast race and a very competitive one as well. We've seen with the GT4s, sometimes we have a little bump and grind, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes down today.
Oh, I mean, it's been so close, and I mean, you touched on it. If you're a betting person, always bet on the horse that you think is going to win up the front. I like to try and play those odds with some surprise victors, and it hasn't worked out just yet. So I'm feeling pretty broke in it, but it's nice to just kind of support all the drivers that come through. Conway and Svensik looking very competitive in those Aston Martins up at the front. The number 28 and 107. Separated by 900ths of a second. So, I mean, you can just see how competitively close they are. Less than a quarter, or let's just call it a quarter of a second between 1st and 6th place. I mean, it's going to be a good race out here. 16 drivers on the grid. It doesn't actually matter the size of the grid when you look at the bigger picture. If you've got a 40, 50 car grid with drivers that aren't competitive or don't have good race ethic, it can be a complete mess. I would take a smaller grid with drivers that know how to drive any day of the week. And I'm hoping that coming the end of quali here, that's going to be sort of the precedent that we see taken forward into the race as Luke Wig goes over the line, a 1:30.993 coming down from him. That's going to be his best lap. Good enough for P13. But Juraj Svensik in that number 107, trying to be the top Aston Martin here at Laguna Seca. This is going to be his final lap to see if he can shoot something in there. And I mean, 900ths of a second is nothing to make up. Conway might be in trouble if Svensik can get it over the line, and it won't be good enough there. And it will go the way of Harry Conway to stay in P1. Billy Octane having an awkward park there before the final corner. He missed the pit entry. Billy, I saw you on the stream. we saw it. I mean, once it's on the internet, it's there forever. But oh, Crozen, what a lap coming in there. Menno Crozen in that BMW takes home a provisional P2 and separates those Aston Martins of Conway and Fensick right in the closing phases of quali.
This is always the fun bit, right? Right at the end here, as everyone puts in their last lap, we see some very fast cars coming in. We're watching Luke Wigner in the Audi. So for him, he's had a really great season. He started towards the back, was a little bit slower. And then as time went on, he steadily improved. We've seen him here week after week, driving, supporting. So I do hope that his season comes to a good end with these last 2 races as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was looking good on that last lap, invalidated on the second last corner, went for a bit of a sand expedition. And unfortunately, that's going to wrap up his quali session. So he starts in 13th and stays back. Harry Conway with a fantastic qualification lap to go up at the top. And I know for Conway, it's all about those points. So let's look at those points. We look at the Gt4 Championship Standings here for the Gt4 Pro class. Up at the top, Miguel Neto on 663 points ahead of his teammate Tiago Lima on 559. Those two are not racing tonight, but certainly representing the Phoenix Racing Portugal name very well and getting themselves a P1 and 2 in the championship. Then Martin Lawrence, who is here in P3 with 417 points, only 5 points ahead of Jesperi Hilicalio, who sits in 4th place on 412. Menno Crozen here as well on 323 points in 5th place. Quite a big gap then up towards the likes of Hilicalio and down to Laurie McLaughlin, who sits in 6th on 253 points. But McLaughlin only 10 points ahead of Billy Octane in 7th place. And Billy Octane only 1 point ahead of Pavel Jarzabowski in 8th. And then Harry Conway, who's now qualified in P1, sitting 2 points behind P8 in 9th place on 240 points. So close, that scrap from 7th to 9th. And then rounding out the top 10, Lucas Sokola in that Maserati sitting in 10th place on 227.
So as George mentioned, of course, our top 2 races aren't going to be here tonight, which means there's points up for grabs. And for some of these drivers that are just outside of the top 10, this is their opportunity. You can see how close those points are. Fimbris Casas and Correa, Hasefoot, Consecao, Ayrton, look how close they are. There's still an opportunity for them to potentially perform really well here and move themselves into that top 10. In P16, we see Svenchik. You'll see him racing tonight. And then, of course, one of the other Crozen brothers, unfortunately not racing tonight because he needs to study, sitting in P17 with 179 points. Luke Wigg, the driver in the Audi, I mentioned to keep an eye on him, 156 points. He's sitting in P18, and I'm sure he'll be happy with being in the top 20, but using today as an opportunity to move a little bit higher up. Pimlot and Rubliar round up our top 20 here.
I mean, I think you nailed it. There's just so many points up for grabs, and there's drivers that haven't made it out yet to Laguna Seca. So plenty of opportunities for drivers to jump up a couple of positions coming into the closing rounds. Consistency wins points. Looking down at P21, Alexander Karsten on 123 points, just ahead of Phil Roberts and Martin Smith, both tied up on 121 points. I mean, they're just 2 points behind Alexander Karsten. Tom Bryant sitting on 119 points in 24th, Alan Garland in 25th on 112. So you can just see it's close across the field. And then, of course, we've got Ryan Gill. He's back again. He's missed a couple of rounds, but in that Alpine, sitting in P26 on 75 points. Fabian Schmidberger on 56 points, not going to be racing tonight. Joe McCauley in 28th on 48. Miro Slaw Conyor on 18 points, sits in P29. And then rounding out the top 30, Doman Sakua on 13 points. Again, lots of names here that we haven't seen racing in a couple of weeks and not going to make it through to this round either.
The final 35 races, we won't see any of them today, but Marciniak, Leon, Quadriglio, whose name I always butcher, and I apologize, Schmidt and Serve, round up our season 2 racing. But of course, it is all going to come down to who takes that 3rd spot. The Phoenix Racing team wrapped up 1st and 2nd for season 2 of the Racing Club International Gt4 Championship. But tonight we'll get to find out who comes up in 3rd place.
An exciting little look at our starting grid then as we begin our pit walk, or grid walk, should I say. Harry Conway starting up at the front on the front row of the grid alongside Menno Krozen in that number 82 BMW. Juraj Spencik and Lucas Sokola line up on the second row in their number 107 and 146 respectively. Then we've got Martin Lawrence and Pavel Jarzabowski on the third row. On the fourth row, Laurie McLaughlin and Diego Paul Fimbres Casas. And then rounding out the top 10 and starting on the fifth row would be Jesperi Elecalio and Martin Smith. Floris Hasevoort starts 11th, Billy Octane in 12th, Luke Wigg 13th, 14th for Phil Roberts, 15th for Tom Bryant. And then all the way at the back, which isn't really at the back, it's in P16, is Ryan Gill in that cute little Alpine.
Cute little Alpine. Of course, no rain, sunny skies, exactly what you would expect from Laguna. It's gonna be good racing for this first race as our drivers do their warm-up lap. I'm expecting some guys to go quick, fast. I'm expecting lots of fun, and I am expecting some really good racing. Right up at the front, in the middle, right at the back. We've seen all of these drivers do such incredible things throughout the season, so you can expect much of that today here at Laguna for their final two races.
And Bart Matcher in the chat just pointing out no rain at Laguna, just the way that Laguna is meant to be, and he couldn't be more right. It's going to be a good race. I like that. I suppose there's not any external factors that are going to get in between the racing here. It's very much a track that demands concentration at all times. One small mistake, you touch that horrible, horrible sand, and you lose a lot of positions. And in these GT4s, it's so important to be able to carry that speed and momentum throughout every single apex here. You slip up once, and you will lose out. The Andretti hairpin, the famed turn 2. Also, just a place that we've seen people get it wrong. We've seen drivers make big mistakes there. Opens up the opportunity for the rest of the field. The top of this hill, the very famed corkscrew, certainly a place that you can make mistakes. Certainly a place that we've seen some horrific dive bombs be attempted before in the past. You can't make those kind of mistakes. You will be called out for it. And all the drivers here know exactly that. So we're setting ourselves up for what should be a grand finale. There's two races to come, two 30-minute sprint races to determine the closing victors of the Season 2 Championship here. And it has been so much fun on a Thursday night. My name is George Smith in the box with Sam Wright, and we've got Stewie, as we like to call him, doing our camera work and doing a good job at that. Racing Club International in partnership with Race Department, AK Informatica, Race Face Speed Labs, and Sim Racing GP is so proud and so glad to have you guys here. Thank you for joining and leaving all the love in the chat box. Leaving us a like and a share, always appreciated. And this will be the first of our two 30-minute races to come. Waiting for the green flags to go. And then we go racing for 30 minutes out at Laguna Seca. And there we go. Flags have dropped and we are live. You can see the chase immediately beginning as we get to see a 3-wide entry coming into the Andretti hairpin. Onto the anchors they go. Have to be very careful not to get caught up amongst each other. You can see those Maseratis trying to make some moves early on. There's one ideal line coming into turn 3, and you want to be on it.
Look at Spencik and Lawrence already fighting it out, trying to get themselves into a really nice position up at the front. You saw that battle the whole way through. You gotta love it. You saw everyone crowd up, but a nice clean start. There wasn't much bumping. We didn't get to see too much bumping. Everyone just tried to get their positions with those two cars abreast.
Small little tap coming down at the back. I think we see the number 33 maybe just lurking behind, and Ryan Gill starting off on fire, making up a couple of places coming through, and he's just trying to find his space here in the chaos. Oh, is that both of the Camaros out early on? It looked like it was. Juraj Spencik running very wide, as did Krozen, and catching out and getting caught out. As I would say on a Monday in the Porsche Cup. Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. That is not a good start for for Menno Crozen. Wow, I actually a bit speechless. I don't know what to say. That wasn't very fun.
No, that was completely not nice to see. All Billy Octane and Hasselfoot getting tangled up there right at the start of the race. That's going to be putting Billy Octane all the way at the back. That's the number 33 we saw lurking down towards the bottom of the field. Stewart's going to be giving us the eyeballs as they get themselves quite interestingly busy early on. I'm not going to approve of the fact that we've seen some incidents coming down. We know how strict they can be. And for Floris Hasefoot, that's going to be a lot of positions that need to be made up, but certainly in a decent place, still sitting within the top 10.
I mean, I feel a bit bad because exactly it was 30 seconds before all of this went down. I said, what a great clean start. And it was almost like with those words, everyone just drove into one another. So there you go. But needless to say, we now keep racing. Harry Conway's got to be feeling happy. He's sitting right there in P1. Lawrence on his tail in P2. McLaughlin now finds himself in P3. Like you saw there, Svenchek has dropped right down, as has Menno Crozen. They were fighting it up in the top 5 there. So this has opened it up. Helikalio now is the one that we're on board with. Now remember, he is currently 5 points off Lawrence in the championship season points. So he wants that P3. He is going to have to beat Lawrence in both of these races to ensure he can get the necessary points. I don't think that's in his head right now. I think when we go racing, drivers just focus on racing. But I'm putting it out there for those of you who are watching, who are keeping track of all of that as well.
Oh, I mean, it's been a bit of a chaotic start coming through. Crozen and Smith going into the pit lane to repair damage. Looks like Smith getting a stop-go 30 time penalty coming out as well after that. So, I mean, it's certainly not a place that you want to find yourself this early into a race, and a stop-go 30 in a 30-minute race is just almost race ending, as it would be said. There's not a lot of time to make up. You've got to have a lot of mistakes from other drivers to recover from that. Hasefoot going to try around the outside of Bryant. Definitely not the most ideal place to be or to try, but certainly going to keep the pressure on at the back of that number 42. On board with the Porsche now as we come into the next left-hander, start the climb up the hill. Just going to make sure to miss that anti-cut curb on the inside, else you get sent up to a place you don't want to be. And now it's all about the brave braking game. Does Bryant go a little bit later on the brakes? He does. Extends the gap as they go through the corkscrew to an extra car length between them. It's a nice braking coming out of Bryant there. Floris Hasefoot maybe going a little bit safe, just braking a little bit earlier up at the top of the hill. Didn't want to be the one to make a mistake. It's your onus as the car behind to make sure you're not colliding with a car in front. So you've got to be a little bit more careful. You do have a little bit of slipstream to work with when you sit in this sort of following distance, but it's not a lot in the GT4s, not a lot of aero dependence come out for them, and that kind of gives us the ability to get closer racing as well. You don't get the same dirty air wash when you're following a car, so you can follow closer, you can drive closer. And Fimbres Casas and Billy Octane doing just that. Oh, the Camaro going to have a look on the inside. Billy Octane turns in, but maybe just pulls the eject button and gives himself a little bit more space coming into the Andretti hairpin. Elects to say, well, I don't really want to go in on that. So I'm not sure if he came in and collided with him, Sam, or just saw it at the last minute in the mirrors and just decided to just steer to avoid.
I think it was a bit of a steer to avoid, just because Fimbres Casas is quite an aggressive driver now in this race, and I'm presuming it's because he's probably not very happy with being so far in the back of the field. So he looks like he's on a mission to move himself up. So it could have just been Billy Octane saying, "I don't need to have this fight so early in the race." But yeah, let's take a look now at Tom Bryant, George.
So Tom Bryant's just running a little bit wide as well. Oh, just making sure to avoid fellow RCI driver there. I think that was Phil in the Ginetta, and Phil Roberts just going a little bit wide, catching that evil sand. Like I said, the quicksand of death. It will take all of the wind in your sails and discard it in an instant.
I'm a fan of building sandcastles, so I can understand why some of our drivers might want to do the same today, but maybe not today. Maybe after the races you can go play in the sand pits.
Luke Wigg, I mean, you told us to keep an eye out on him, and he's just made a good move on Sokola there, who ran very wide into the Andretti hairpin. In fact, both of the Maseratis sort of fell victim coming down into the braking zone there. They don't have the ABS assistance that the Audi here that we're looking at does, but Luke Wigg up into P5.
So in P5, and now he's just got to keep it there. That's the biggest thing, right? Is the one thing that we've seen with Luke throughout the season is sometimes when the pressure is on from behind, he can be forced to make a mistake. Look at these teammates, though, having a little bit of a squabble there, George.
Oh, I mean, Bryant ran wide, dragged the tire in the sand, allowed Phil Roberts in the chasing Ginetta to get a car length closer. And this is certainly gloves off racing between the two of them. There's no victory like a victory over your teammates, especially coming into the final rounds. And Phil Roberts looking to wrap up the season with a victory over Bryant. Of course, Phil Roberts, the man that I've been putting money on every week, hoping for the Ginetta to feature, and certainly doing well here in the top 10 as the gatekeeper in 10th place, making sure that Gil doesn't get involved in 11th. Gil's had a good progression considering he started right at the back of the field, and he's made his way up into 11th place. So we see a little triple R trifecta coming down. You know, triple R trifecta. I'll pat myself on the back.
I'll let you have that one. You can go with that. Let's take a look now at Phil Roberts. This is my thing here. So I told you this earlier. Fimbres Casas was looking very aggressive to me. He's sitting, but he's kind of sandwiched between the Triple R racing team. Just slap bang in the middle right now. But I think he wants them. He wants all that pink and blue way behind him. So he's going to be coming in pretty aggressive, I think, to Roberts and Bryant. So they need to be aware of that, and possibly just create some space between themselves and the Camaro.
I mean, they're sort of caught up in their own little battle here, which will play into the hands of that number 10 Camaro. Fimbres Casas will know this. Will know that if these two scrap it out, it's going to create opportunities for him to get through. He was caught out in a position early on in the race, had the pace to show that he certainly should be further up the field, and will be wanting to try and get as many positions gained as early as possible. You get caught out behind cars that are battling it out. They are going slower. That's just the nature of not having the free air. And they certainly, Tom Bryant's going to go for the inside line around the outside. Phil Roberts going to try and have a look. Well, look at the pace of that Ginetta as they drag down at the start-finish straight. Fimbres Casas following in tow, trying to get this. But the Triple R boys go side by side. Bryant with a little bit more top end. Ginetta of Phil Roberts just tucks back in there. Are they going to open up opportunities here? Roberts very, very wide. This is going to allow Fimbres Casas to get the inside apex. And that's one of the battle done and dusted. Next in the sights would be Bryant.
Bryant is now in, like you said, in the sights of Fimbres Casas. And I think he's going to make a move relatively quickly. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. He is fighting to move on up. That is what he wants to do. Just to remind you, though, we're busy watching the Triple R's race it out. Look at Fimbres Casas. He's just going in. He's like a shark. This particular car always makes me think of a very big shark. Whenever I see it, and I feel like he's currently
he's got him. He pressured Bryant making a mistake into the left-hander coming up the hill, loses momentum coming up. The Ginetta Phil Roberts going to be able to get involved here as well. Going to try and have a look if he can capitalize. Fimbres Casas getting that move done and dusted. Bryant in his rearview mirror now and can focus on the rest of the grid as we also see the likes of Gil getting involved here. So it's actually now a Triple R4. I think there's a word I could say that will get us in trouble on YouTube, but there's 4 of them now involved in this, and it is going to be, it's not even wet here, but it's certainly going to be wild.
Look at all these photo opportunities for their team. All 4 of them racing together while their teammate is up in that top spot. He's just keeping Martin Lawrence off of his back. But the Triple R drivers, this is where all the fun has been for the last few minutes. We get to watch them all battle it out in the pink and blue. And look at them all. This is the thing which is fun about... Let's talk about team drivers before you explain what we've just seen, George, is that the best part about watching drivers in a team is I do find that they're a little bit more aggressive and they take bigger chances with one another.
Oh, Harry Conway eats that inside sausage curb, gets launched into the sad sand of death, and that's going to allow Lawrence to get that overtake done. So we see the change for the lead up at the front. Maybe Harry Conway wanting to join the rest of the Triple R homies down towards the back of the field. Conway again with a mistake on the exit there, picking up a little bit more sand than he would have wanted, and that's going to slow down the attack then that he wants to make. But yes, talking about teammates, you certainly can work together. You also sort of learn to drive with one another. You know the habits that one another have, and you can try and see if you can get a move done, maybe somewhere that you wouldn't risk it against someone else. But we see a nice little overtake taking place there. The two Maserati teammates today dressed up in a different livery as well, just going for the alternate color schemes on their cars, where there's white, there's red on the other's car, and where there's red, there's white.
Look at how all these teammates are just, going at each other and battling it out, which I'm quite enjoying. So we saw it with the Maseratis, and we saw it with the Triple R guys as well. But now let's focus on that 171, the BMW. Martin Lawrence currently leading the pack. He's got to make some space now between himself and Harry Conway, though. That's the biggest thing, because as you race now, you just want to create as much space as you can at the front, so you don't have to worry too much about what's happening behind. Though I think Harry Conway is going to be sitting right there being like, nope, that was not your space to have. I could talk a lot more about Martin Lawrence, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to say that you really do need to watch him. If you allow him the space and you make a mistake like Harry Conway did, he will take advantage of that. And if he's allowed to open himself up a little bit here, I think he's going to be pretty hard to catch, George.
Oh, I mean, it was certainly looking good for Harry Conway up at the front. The Aston Martin doing a good job, but we said it's all about consistency here at Laguna. It can be a very punishing beast at that, and unfortunately that didn't quite pan out. We'll see Billy Octane making a move then on Ryan Gill up at the top of the corkscrew. Bryant, who was the lead of the couple of Triple R team cars that we saw, is now slotted in towards the back, sitting in P13. Ryan Gill in the rear view mirror of Billy Octane. That Alpine closing down on the back end of the 570S. Octane doing a good job to also just make his way through the field. We saw him get caught out with Haasefwoord in the second or third corner in the opening lap, and now has to kind of struggle to try and get up towards the front. We know that Octane and Conway, they're fighting it out in their own team battle for their positions down the order. But, this is some close racing coming out from the Triple R team. And it's just kind of nice to see everybody out here and enjoying their racing. It opens up the opportunities for Svensic in that 107 to eventually catch up to these three. They are creating sort of battles for themselves that they probably don't need to take at this place, but it's fun. It's all in the spirit of racing, and they're going to just be pushing it to the limits. Sokola and Jazabowski, the 36 and 146, they've also been doing exactly the same thing. They've lost a bit of time to the cars in front, but they've been having a little Maserati knife fight between the two.
This is what I say, though. This is why I love it when team drivers go up against one another, because they do take on the battles that maybe if it wasn't their teammates, they possibly would avoid, but they seem to get a little bit of a confidence boost when they know that driver, and it just becomes so entertaining. So we're really getting some good racing to watch. Lots of fun for those that are sitting in the grandstands, those that are watching on the stream. We get to enjoy it. Now look at Fimbris Casas. The last time we saw him, he had just taken over from all of those pink and blue cars, and now he is hot on the heels of Haasefwoord. He is hungry. That shark, I want to say it's circling. There's a joke there because of the track and whatever, but he's desperately
and
trying to move
NASCAR
him.
because it's America.
There you go. There's so much, but there he is, and I think he's probably going to make a move on Haasefwoord very soon.
Certainly starting to set himself up is the number 10 of Diego Paul Fimbris Casas. He's had to fight through the field, had a couple of talented drivers to navigate through, and certainly done so nice and cleanly, showing clear intent at wanting to get through the field. And now Haasefwoord going to be the potential next victim to feel this. Very late on the brakes, coming into the braking zone of turn 5. You can just see it's tucked up right behind the back splitter of the number 20 Porsche in front. Get a nice view from here at the change in elevation as we make our way up that hill. Both of them carrying some speed. Fimbres Casas wants the inside line to break into, breaks at exactly the same point as the Porsche in front, carries a bit more momentum through, has to tap on the brakes again midway through the corkscrew there, and that's going to cost him a couple of car lengths. But that Porsche getting a little bit loose on the rear end, trying to get the power down, is going to allow him to catch back up again. And you start to force the errors. That's what you have to do on tracks like this. Force the error, brake later. Now he's going to go for the inside line coming through. Does the number 20 get the cutback, carry the momentum through? But I don't think he will. It will be a clean maneuver from the number 10 Kamara as he moves himself up into 8th place.
Incredible driving from Fimbres Casas. He is on a roll and he is doing such an incredible job. The Maseratis are now in his sights, so those teammates, they need to start working together to keep Fimbres Casas away from them. Also, just to draw your attention to what's happening between first and second currently. Conway is only half a second off Lawrence. So we'll keep an eye on those times for you in case we see that get a little bit exciting up at the front there for the leaders as well, because that might be a battle to be seen. Hasselwood's not giving up, hey? He's coming back and wanting his position back, George.
He is indeed, but Fimbres Casas, who's overtaken him there, just found 2 tenths already to the likes of Sokola, who will be the first of the Maseratis that he catches up with, and the Maserati that we drive on board with, the number 146 here, fallen a little bit prey to losing out to his teammate. We see the number 36 in front, quite a few car lengths ahead, and now has to just focus on making sure that Fimbres Casas doesn't have an easy job overtaking. Even if you are teammates out there and you're battling against each other, you also have a team name that you're representing. You're trying to make sure that you don't lose track position to other drivers. So you are going to make things a little bit harder. Talking about making it harder. Down the field, Tom Bryant and Svensik are going to get into it. Juraj Svensik trying to see if he can get something planned up against the likes of Tom Bryant in that number 42. At one stage, this BMW was sitting at the front of those triple R4, word that I can't say on YouTube, else we get banned. But I mean, they've been having a good race so far, and very deep goes Bryant. Svensik a little bit less deep, but also a little bit later on the brakes. Didn't quite capitalize on that mistake. If I'm not mistaken, Svensik looking a little bit damaged on the front end as well on that Aston Martin.
Did it look? Yeah, there's definitely damage there. Of course, Svensik started this race out in, I think it was 4th on the grid for qualifying, maybe 5th. I'll double check that. But he didn't have a great start, and he's going to be thinking about that, obviously, and now trying to move up. But let's take a look. With 10 minutes to go, the 2 leaders, Martin Lawrence and Harry Conway, and I mentioned this earlier. I didn't think Conway was going to give up that P1 without a fight, and right now he is breathing down Lawrence's neck.
Breathing down, keeping the pressure on, and we'll just see Phil Roberts losing me all my hard-earned money there. Unfortunately, going to loop the Jeanette around.
That was a little bit unfortunate. He just wanted to go play in the sand. I told you, building sandcastles is fun, man.
There's a time and a place, Phil, for building sandcastles. Not when I've got my money on you.
Okay, Luke Wigg, P5, probably his best performance to date in this Gt4 Championship. He just needs to keep his cool now. I mentioned it earlier. There's less than 10 minutes to go, but sometimes when Luke is in a good spot like this, he can get pressured easily by cars behind him, and sometimes it forces him to make a mistake. He's got both those Maseratis on his tail, so now what he needs to do is not look in his rearview mirror and just keep focusing on driving the race he's been driving, because he's had a really good run throughout. And as I say that, looks to me like Conway's just claimed his first spot back, George.
Oh, I mean, there we go. We'll get to see a recap of what's happened there. Oh, one small mistake. You touch that sand. You see how slow you go. And taking it up the run there is going to not be the ideal place to lose out time. And you can just see how much of a gap it then creates between them. So Conway reclaims the crown as Luke Wigg has to start defending his. Jarzabowski and Sokola get wrapped up between this. Jarzabowski goes wide coming out of the top of the corkscrew, and that allows Sokola to just slide on by equally easily. And this is going to open up things for Fimbres Casas, because when he catches up to this 3 stack cars, that's going to be 3 overtaking opportunities for him to start to plan out.
Look at this. It's like 2 Raptors, those 2 Maseratis coming at Ludwig, and then behind them is the T-Rex of the Camaro that is Fimbris Cassas. So all the dinosaurs are chasing you, Luke. Run, run, run.
Chris Vinning in the chats, shout out to him. He taught me the word quartet for 4-way things that don't get banned on YouTube. So that's something I can add into my inventory of things that I can use in the future, and not just use it as clickbait for more views and likes.
I do like the fact that we never came to the conclusion of using quartet. We were both stuck on the banned word.
I mean, sometimes it's nice to just let people use their minds out there, and also obviously I was not using mine and I was unable to get to the word there. So big shout out to Chris Vinning in the chat for helping us. Big shout out to everybody actually joining us tonight for the grand final rounds of the Gt4 Championship Season 2 here at Racing Club International in partnership with Race Department, AK Informatica, Raceface Speed Labs, and Sim Racing GP out in the US of A at Laguna Seca. And we are only 7 minutes away from seeing the checkered flag in race 1. We'll then go for a tiny little break where we get to do a very fun drone explore session around the outskirts of the circuit. Our drone pilot, Stewie, has been preparing himself all day to get to show us that circuit. So don't go anywhere. If you do, it must be just to pour a drink or to make a quick snack. And we'll be back for the second 30-minute race. It's going to be a goodie.
It is going to be a goodie. Luke Wigg doing his utmost to defend this position, the only Audi in the field, and he has those 2 Maseratis as well as the Camaro right behind him. There is no space for him to make an error, because I believe at this point in the race, if he does, and as I say that, there it is, the first attempt. And now the other 2 have smelt blood. So this is the problem. Jazabowski and Fimbris Cassas, they've smelt that blood, and they want those positions as well. So if Luke Wigg wants to stay, he's now got to be aware that both those cars are coming. As I said that, look, there it is. Fimbris Cassas is coming for you. He's claimed a spot from one of the Maseratis, and now he has the Audi in his sights.
What a great move coming out there from Fimbris Cassas. Spotted out they would be bunched up, saw the opportunity to take that inside line at turn 5, and did exactly that. Got one position done on the Maseratis, and now knows that Luke Wigg is probably a little bit ruffled up from having to defend against the likes of Sokola, and will be just applying that same amount of pressure. Force the error. That's exactly what lost Luke Wigg the position in the first place. It was just driver error. Made a little mistake coming into the corner, and didn't have the drive away that would enable him to defend. So just had to pretty much be a sitting duck in that scenario, with a hungry shark chasing down in the form of Fimbris Cassas. Now it's not something you can afford to do again.
Definitely can't do it with Fimbris Cassas behind you. We've seen his driving. He'll take advantage of that so fast. Jazabowski's now playing catch-up. So you'll remember we saw both those Maserati teammates enjoying a lot of the mid-race together, and they've been separated now. So he's trying to catch up to his teammate, Sazkola, who's currently sitting in P4. But he's got a fight on his hands, because Fimbris Cassas is hungry for blood.
Hungry for blood indeed. Billy Octane and Ryan Gill, they're still going at it down in P10 and 11. Billy Octane just steps up to claim P10 there as they make their way out from the Andretti hairpin. And a good move from the 570S over that Alpine of Ryan Gill. Fimbris Cassas, that move planned up is going to... Oh, Luke Wigg going to make a big mistake there. Jumps the curb, gets sent around. We'll see a replay of that for sure. Once Stewie gets that queued up for us. But I mean, that was certainly not the place that he wanted to find himself in.
Definitely not. Let's take a look here. But this is the thing about Fimbris Cassas. He just came right in there and said, I want this space, I'm going to take it, and ultimately is able to then force himself into that space. But not only has Fimbris Cassas and Jazabowski been able to push Wigg out, so is Harsefoots. He took advantage of that as well, George.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about just making sure that you're in the right place at the right time. We saw Jazabowski just sort of sitting back, allowing Fimbris Cassas to do all the hard work, and it certainly paid off. Luke Wigg making that mistake coming over the curb at turn 6. I'm not sure we'll get to see that. There wasn't really a collision that took place. but it did mean that, lost a lot of positions there. Hasefoot slides on by. So Luke Wigg finds himself in a bit of a spot of bother then. Maybe also not the worst thing, kind of get it over and done with now, deal with the pressure, know that you've got something to come back with in race 2. Top 10 finish is still decent for race 1. Svensik, who will be wanting to have a much better race come race 2, is keeping that pressure on at the back of the number 42 of Tom Bryant. And those two have also just sort of been nose to tail for what has been, at least 3/4 of the race. After we saw the Triple R quartet get done and dusted, it just kind of left these two to scrap it out between each other. Svensik does seem to have some nice lines, though, looking to carry a lot more speed, find that inside apex, and does not want to finish with an unlucky number 13th place.
Interestingly enough, though, while this has all been going on, just to draw your attention to our leaders, Conway is still up in the front, but there is now almost 3 seconds between him and Lawrence. So obviously something happened there while we were watching some of the battles in the midfield, because before that time difference was easily half a second. So that's good, though. I mean, with 2 minutes to go, Harry Conway's got to be smiling. You just got to keep on driving now.
Keep on smiling, keep on driving. A 2.8 second gap for Conway is going to be decent. What isn't decent, though, Bryant here feels like is going to be bullied coming the last part of the race. 2 minutes on the clock remain until we see the checkered flag. And at this point, it's going to be some trouble. Oh, that 107. Both of them actually go quite deep. The cutback opportunity going to be there for Bryant. Going to be able to defend. Oh, elbows out, making that BMW as wide as possible. Going to force Svensik to touch the sad sand. And that's going to cost them in terms of position, Sam.
Definitely cost them in terms of position. I don't think Svensik was too happy with this. You saw the lights going just a little bit, so a little bit of a bump and tickle there from them as we move into the final minutes of the race. That our normal James Bond 107, not very happy with that. But this is it now. The leaders are moving into the final lap. If you're going to make your move, and as I say make your move, Svensik just stuck an elbow out there.
I mean, a little elbow comes back, and these two are going knives out, guns blazing for the final part of the race. There's nothing to lose between the two of them. I mean, Svensik, I think on the first sort of exit out of Andretti, had a little flash of the headlights, maybe upset with Bryant, but I don't feel that there was anything really in that.
Oh, doesn't matter now because they'll keep on showing each other their elbows, and Fimbres Casas is going to use this opportunity to move himself up into 5th place if he can. Look how close he is to Taz Kola in that Maserati. He is completely focused on jumping up into the top 5, which is fascinating to me considering on where he was at the start of this race and how far back he was and how he had to move so much and move up so many positions. He's now contesting 4 going to be an interesting one. So Saz Kola cannot afford to make an error. It's your final lap. You can't give him any space at all. And as I say that, I think our leaders are starting to make their way to the finish line now. Harry Conway, it's clean sailing. Here he is. He is about to go over that line. He's going to take that first place. And well done to him. He does it, and there is your winner. Martin Lawrence coming in second, and McLaughlin following close behind for 3rd place.
Oh, what a race. Harry Conway, first victory in the GT4s, coming out. He's at a podium, but not quite a win. So that top 3, certainly an interesting land-up. I don't think McLaughlin has been up at the top of the finishing places either. That will be corrected if I'm wrong. But Luke Wigg now trying to just hold on to the back of Hasefoot. Is there a position to be found? It's a drag down to the finish line and a car length between them. Hasefoot and Wigg will cross the line behind one another. But Hilikaliot taking home P4, Sokola in P5. Fimbres Casas finishes 6th, Jazbowski 7th, Hasefoot 8th, Wigg 9th. Octane finishes in 10th place ahead of Ryan Gill for 11th. Svensik takes home P12. Bryant in position 13. 14th for Roberts, as we see the Triple R homies hugging one another. All elbows out. We're all going to play in the stand, is what they said to each other.
They all just jumped in for a big group hug. That's what that was. Big group hug in the sandpit, right? Well done to Harry Conway. What a race from him. First place, Martin Lawrence in second, McLaughlin in third, like you said. Helicollier in fourth. So Helicollier is going to have to finish second or better in the next race and hope that Martin Lawrence doesn't podium if he wants to find himself in that third place on the series points for the end of season 2.
You're not wrong there, Sam. I mean, it was a terrific end to that race. I think Harry Conway and Lawrence certainly had a nice little battle between the two of them. A couple mistakes coming out from both drivers, really being the reasons why we saw those positions getting changed up. And I guess that kind of appeals or applies to the entire race field at that point, as we get nice drone shot of the fireworks going out here in the US of A at Laguna Seca. What would it be if it's not America with fireworks?
Especially fireworks during the day. What a party. Take a look at this. Here we go. As we do some drone footage around Laguna. And of course, you gotta love the fact that that middle area actually was once a lake. So it was a dry lake bed, which is now turned into just a really cool party spot, which you can see from the top of wherever we were earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, we actually needed Jesse Lee out here. We asked him to come and join us. We wanted to add some authenticity to our American leg of the GT4 Championship. He declined. He said that he had some other American things to do. I can't even remember what he had sort of ditched us with. But our drone pilot Stu, he was very eager to get a little look here. We see what is the fake Hollywood sign. This is the corkscrew sign down at the bottom of the corkscrew hill. Is this a place that they do drag racing? I know they like drag racing and driving around in big circles that only turn to the left.
It only turns to the left. We're not 100% sure, but now you get to take a nice look at some empty spaces. There's the little fake lakes that they threw into the middle of I'm presuming the now dry lake beds. Now they got some fake lakes, and I'm presuming those tents in the middle are for the VIPs, because of course they'd want their own little pretend moats around.
Well, I mean, right now it'd probably be used for COVID screening and testing.
I mean, fair enough.
But I mean, in normal times, probably for. Oh, there's a helicopter. Can we see the helicopter, Stu?
Go back to the helicopter. It's quite a small little heli, but it's cute.
I mean, it's not small. It's like it's a decent size for. This is how we actually arrived here at Laguna Seca. This is It's actually the camera chopper. You can see it's got its cameras and its spotlights on it.
It's got all the necessary tools available to get you the best possible shots, but nowhere near as good as what Stewie gets us on his little drone.
Not as good, and he can fly this between the flyover, the walkways as well, so we get to see those. Some nice racing fuel barrels. Seems like a safe place to store them.
This is more than likely for the Western cowboys who come out to do barrel racing on the horses in between the cars.
Stewie has actually lost his drone. He had to deploy a new one from one of our participants' cars. So that's a he keeps losing his drones here. I mean, it's the whole season. We saw last week he flew it under a Porsche. Now he's losing signal of them. We get to go and see some caravans, as we would call them in South Africa, but RVs is probably the more American term for them.
The RVs, you can drive your RV to the racetrack and you can camp out for the weekend.
Oh, do you see the crane there as well? That crane back there, that's used to fish drivers out from the sand pits once they've taken too much of the anti-cut curb as well.
I missed the crane because I was looking at the porta potties. I like to judge each racetrack's porta potties.
Oh, here we got some more porta potties.
Some more.
They have nine people occupancy, actually.
Full 9 people occupancy? Where did you get that from?
Well, on the front to the other side, the opposite of a P is obviously a 9. They've inverted it here. You see? P, 9, 9P. So 9 people.
I mean, can you get 9 people in a porta potty? I believe you can, because I was always told that you can do whatever you set your mind to.
I mean, you probably wouldn't want to fit 9 people in a porta potty. I think that's probably the first sign of danger when
I
you're
didn't.
out
I
at
mean,
an event.
I didn't ask if you wanted to. I said, could you? And I think you can.
I mean, fair. Look how nice this view is of the racetrack here from the top of this hill. I mean, if I was going to set up a picnic blanket for a romantic setting, that would be my place. Be at the top of the
Right
corkscrew.
behind the porta potties. Okay.
Um,
Interesting decision there.
I mean, those porta potties are not used because obviously they're at the top of a hill, which no one would walk to go to use them. So it's a safe place.
Fair enough. We're getting ready to go racing. Here they come, all our drivers, right over Stewie's drone.
I mean, you put it here, you thought no one's going to drive over my drone, and all of the competitors decide they would. I'm glad to see it's still flying. That means that our race organizers aren't going to have to reimburse him again. He goes through these drones like clothing at this stage.
We're going to get into trouble for next season. The drone budget's going to be slashed.
Yeah, they're gonna, and you know where they're gonna take that from, right? They're gonna take that out of our budget for enjoying snacks and drinks here in this lovely commentary booth.
No more helicopter rides to the track for us.
No, we'll have to arrive on the back of a cowboy's horse. But getting serious for race 2, same starting grid that we saw for race 1. Of course, quali determined that. We'll get to see the start of this race, if it's going to transpire any differently. This is traditionally where we see the elbows come out, isn't it, Sam?
Definitely. Right at the start is normally where it begins. And then after that, it's towards the end. And here we go as we start our second race and the final race in our Gt4 Championship for Season 2. And the battle is on. Look at Crozen already getting aggressive.
Crozen was almost robbed of being able to participate in that previous race, got taken out. A horrible T-bone that resulted in his car being flipped over. And it's going to be a little tap for the Aston Martin. Touches the grass, or the sand, should I say. And that's going to create complete chaos as they make their way through that second right-hander. This is close racing for the start of the race. It's allowed our front runners to get themselves nicely spaced out. But you see Martin Lawrence establishing dominance early on. You see Fimbres Cassas also just trying to hang on, had to work through the entire field in the first race, and that cost dearly in terms of total finishing position. So a nice start coming out from everybody, nice and clean, everybody getting away. Maybe a little bit of rubbing is racing taking place, but across the field, we can just see battles taking place. Ryan Gill just sitting back and just watching what happens in front of him. Gets forced a little bit wide off track, has to have a little bit of a recovery from that tank slap as they make their way up the hill. But not a bad place to be when everybody else is going too wide through the rest of the circuit.
So remember, some of these drivers didn't. As I say that, Smith is going to go play in the sand pit. Bumps Wig's going into the sand pit. Everyone's going into the sand pit now.
There was a lot of avoidance trying to take place. Looks like Phil Roberts has not been able to catch it quite in time, but we'll go on board and see what transpires. Look at this. Roberts gets a little bit of a tank slapper. Trying to get it. Good avoidance from everybody else. Roberts gets himself out of the way of danger at the same time. But that certainly was a bit of a dive coming in there that allowed sort of everybody else to get through. But it has spaced out those competitors quite a lot.
Quite a lot, and I think Svenchik obviously finding himself right at the back again. That's the second race today that's happened to him. Some of the other races didn't have such a great start. There was some bumps in that first race. They've been able to survive the start this time, so it is really just Svenchik who's now got to fight his way back up again. Currently in P13, sandwiched between those Triple R Racing, Gill and Smith there. But at the top, it seems Conway was able to keep his spot, and Crozen this time, who unfortunately, like you mentioned, George, flipped himself out of the last race. Crozen is happily sitting in P2, while Saz Colin, Lawrence, and Fimbres Cassas are going to battle it out here for P3.
Certainly going to impact their ability to catch back up to the leaders if they caught out here, and they're going to keep themselves busy. It will be nice to see Lawrence and Fimbres Cassas go nose to tail. They didn't get to do that in the first race. So it'll be good to see if they get to go that distance. For Lawrence, he needs to finish ahead in the second race of Hilicalio, who currently sits in 8th place. So not a bad place there if he wants to secure P3 in the championship. Juraj Svensek, who was sandwiched or is still sandwiched in that P12 position, trying to make his way round the outside of Bryant. Going to be going for the long way round. Not going to quite be able to do it in the mid part of the corner, but was trying to obviously take a little bit more speed on the exit. Didn't quite work out, and Bryant survives there. But for Gil, he's made his way up into P13. Started at the back. We saw him have that little tank slapper early on in the opening lap, but chaos pursued, and that, well, should I say ensued? Chaos ensued, and that meant that Ryan was able to get himself up into a better position. But certainly a lot of car links between these drivers. You can just see Bryant in that number 42 kind of leads out that second bunch of cars. If you look at the track map on the right side of your screen now, you can see two distinct packs, almost three forming up, with Conway and Crozen starting to pull away as well.
Let's take a look now as Martin Lawrence tries to make a play on that Maserati that's sitting there, kind of forces line, causes a mistake, has a little bump, but is able to pull himself right into the front.
That was, I mean, that was a bit of beautiful driving from Lawrence. I think it looked almost like Sokola had overslowed the car down a little bit too much. Good thinking from Lawrence to go round on the right side, then sets himself up for the inside line, which Sokola kind of wanted to just have back, so almost turns in. But Lawrence, with a very brave move through the mid part of the corkscrew, then gets himself away and puts another car between himself and Fimbris Casas, which is exactly what he wanted to do. Fimbris Casas will then have to make a chasing man's game down and try and get past. We'll get to have a look here at Bryant versus Svensik out of the last corner. And I think maybe just a little bit of a tap coming in being indicated there from our proximity sensors that are placed in the bumpers of these cars. But, they don't always tell us the severity of that impact. We just get a little notification say, well, there's been a little bit of a bump. And sometimes it can be catastrophic, as we saw the likes of Crozen doing those kick flips on the side of the hill coming up to the top of the corkscrew in race 1. Or it can be as light as a little spank on the back end.
Just a little spank on the back end. Of course, Crozen, like you said, had that little flip over, but now currently seeing, that was, that was not a little spank at all, George.
No, that was a bit of a hard bang coming out.
So Spanchik pushes himself right out there. I mean, what happened?
I think maybe just missing the braking zone, sort of following with the blinkers on, and you can kind of get caught out. Not being able to see your brake markers quite where you want to see them. Here we'll get a race replay coming into there, and just not the right place. Juris Svensik didn't really want to turn into the apex, would have sort of T-boned the likes of Bryant, and kind of between a rock and a hard place, made the decision to try and pull out to the right side, caught the back bumper, and a collision then came through from that.
That it did. Now look at Fimbris Casas here. Says Kohler right in front of him, but McLaughlin right on the back of him. This is going to be very competitive, I say, from sort of P4, 5, 6, and I mean, Jazabowski can never be written off. That's going to be quite aggressive.
Quite aggressive indeed, and sometimes it's just aggressive driving that comes out. You feel yourself feel like you've got just too much to make up with not enough time, and you lose sort of the focus side. You make some mistakes, and it's not always the nicest thing to see. I think for us in the comms box, we don't want to see drivers hurt. We don't want to see drivers colliding into each other, impacting each other's racing. But it wouldn't be a stint in the commentary box if we didn't see these sort of events take place.
Awesome. We're now on board with Martin Smith. He is now playing with the Triple R crew as well. They're all hanging out there. Oof, there was a lot of sand there. Someone really cut that inside turn. I think it's the BMW. Did you see that, George?
Yeah, Tom Bryant was the one that just went through the mid part of the corkscrew, and it's quite a drop off that side of the track as well. Not a place you want to find yourself, and picked up a lot of sand. Slowed down the exit, which you kind of need coming out of that corner, and allowed the likes of Smith to just get an easy drive-by done and dusted. On board with Fimbres Casas, the man who we saw fighting from the back of the grid in race 1, finding himself up into P5, which is certainly a good position to be in with 21 minutes to go. Sokola, who had a couple of errors in race 1, just in terms of braking points, making mistakes, now going to be under pressure from what has seemed to be a very consistent drive coming out from the number 10. Oh, good speed coming out of the corkscrew, but not going to be in place to try and make a move to turn in on the exit there. He's going to just be hugging the apexes, trying to use some of the slipstream available, but also just trying to get alongside to be given track position. We've seen Fimbres Casas on this inside line. Sokola with a wider line. The two of them going to come together as they fight for track position, but they will be equal as they come over the checkered flag. A photo finish if it was the last lap. Fimbres Casas now on at the inside. Going to slow that car down. Trying to make it as wide as possible as well. Force Sokola to just kind of get in line and follow through, and does exactly that as they see McLaughlin in their rearview mirrors as well, just closing down. That Aston Martin is there, and Jarzabowski right at the back of that shot, also still in this, but certainly a nice little move planned out by Fimbres Casas. Used the exit. Oh, that Maserati behind getting very loose. Sokola catches the back end, but loses time to Fimbres Casas. You see how McLaughlin and that Aston Martin just reels him in immediately. One small mistake, one slip up here, and it's enough to cost you a couple of car lengths and sometimes positions at that.
I do love watching Fimbres Casas when he's on that aggressive take. There's so much confidence in some of the moves he makes. Moves that are kind of scary when you're watching. You know, there's a big risk, but he just does them so well. And we've seen some really impressive driving from him, of course, in race 1 today, but now again, watching him do that. Now I want to see some impressive driving from that 007 car. McLaughlin here in the mix in his Aston Martin, sandwiched between the two Maseratis. Sokola is doing his absolute best to just try and fend him off.
Trying. I mean, we can just see all across the field still there are just close battles between people. Jarzabowski has McLaughlin in sight. That number 7 Aston Martin not going to just get away like that. Oh, Sokola a little bit deep again, coming down into that Andretti hairpin, is going to allow McLaughlin to get even closer. And Jarzabowski is just going to keep a good distance between them. From the back wing of Lucas Sokola's Maserati, get a nice sight here at Laguna Seca. You can see it's just gone 7:17 p.m. on our race clock up at the top. 18 minutes left to go of the race, but a nice time to be driving around. Luke Wigg not having the best race this time round. Second race not going so ideal, but we'll certainly be trying to see if he can get a move done on Roberts. Roberts going to be in an awkward position coming through that right hand, and is going to have to concede track position then to Wigg. So for Roberts, not going to be too happy he got bullied out of that position, but will accept the fate and just sort of step back in and wait and see. Smith in that 443 Camaro chasing down onto the little cute Alpine, and you honestly can't see that car when they go through the corkscrew. Look here, they just disappear. Oh, where's he gone? Oh, there he is again.
Especially when you're on board of the Camaro, like it's almost like the Camaro just eats.
It's got a weirdly big hood.
Poor little Ryan in his cute little car is getting eaten up by the Camaro. I'm never going to be allowed back in an RCI chat again. Ryan's going to be very unhappy with this, but watch this Camaro just gobble him up.
Listen, I know that Ryan doesn't even listen back to our commentary that we do. I've quizzed him on whether he heard what we call him on the chats, and he doesn't even have a clue. So we can call him the cute little Alpine all day, all night. He won't even tweet about us.
There we go. Look at this. Look at the triple R team going at each other. Another bump.
Olympic scale dive coming out. Bryant going to do the right thing and just wait for Roberts to come back past. saw the error of his ways and decided to just pull over and wait on the start-finish straight out of that final corner. But yeah, that was an Olympic level dive.
There we go. We're now watching Crozen going on a nice detour, which is not what you want to do when Martin Lawrence is that close behind you. Just sort of overshot that, went into the sand, and it gave the perfect opportunity for Lawrence to just move himself into P2. Look at these Maseratis now ganging up on McLaughlin as well.
I think McLaughlin's ganging up on the Maseratis at this point, getting a read all around Laurie McLaughlin in that 007 Aston Martin. Signature color coming down, and obviously an iconic number if you're a James Bond fan and the Aston Martin brand. But certainly doing good jobs to just get past and see where the space will be made available. Lucas Sokola looking a little bit more rattled out here at Laguna Seca. Race 1 was a bit rattled. Race 2 is looking a little bit rattled as well, and certainly is feeling that pressure coming down a little bit deep out from the exit there. Does the Aston Martin get the drive coming down, and does the second or the first right-hander after coming out of the Andretti hairpin is where it gets dialed in. Jarzabowski under pressure from Helicalio, and Hasefoot coming in as well. So the Porsche gang in the in 8th and 9th, trying to make their way through the field here, and certainly with some opportunities ahead. Helicalio just a hairline fracture ahead of Hasefoot, and the two of them just an eyebrows width behind the likes of Jarzabowski.
You finished with all the body references to the gaps?
I mean, it's how everything in the human body is scaled to something. You know, you can measure everything with something.
Ryan Gill's doing some donuts in the sand now. Facing the wrong way. Not sure what happened there. What happened there, George? Use body references for the whole thing. Let's see.
He's actually doing a little bit of competitive yoga, and that would be essentially trying to touch his toes, and unfortunately has found himself hurting his back and facing the wrong direction.
There we go. Well done. That you did a good job there. I'll put my serious face back on now. Look at this smash up here of the Maseratis and the Porsches all just having a good little fight. They're so nice and close as well. You never get to see this in traffic. Such great cars all together like this close. But I feel like the Maseratis have had a bit of a hard time between sort of Fimbris and as well as McLaughlin, and now the Porsches. What is going on, Gil? Are we sandcasting donuts? I can't figure it out.
I think Ryan needs to sign up for some race lessons at this point. I know he doesn't watch the streams back, so he'll never hear me shooting shots. But you know, we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him racing for a while, so maybe he's forgotten how to use the pedals and the steering wheel.
That cute little Alpine isn't going to be eaten up by anyone because it's right at the back. So
he's going to risk getting himself lapped if he keeps on going for excursions like that.
Fair enough. Maybe he's just exploring the track. Now let's take a look at Helicalio, who is coming on to fight off these Maseratis. He wants to take away one of their positions. So Jarzabowski and Sazkola, they got to get ready.
I mean, right now, it's certainly lining up. 13 minutes to go. All our cars spaced out. Look, I mean...
Ryan, again?
This is getting beyond...
Is he... I mean... Are the tires dead? Did he lose his steering wheel? Has he forgotten how to drive? What is going on, Mr. Gill?
I mean, he's actually just elected to get that car towed back to the pits, it looks like. And I think that's probably the safest decision, not just for him, but everybody else on the track. Ryan Gill going to pull out into the pit box. And, I mean, if he's repairing that car, he's repairing it, or he's going to load up the stream and hear a bit of smack talk. So, you know, either way is a win for me.
It'll be either or for him. Now let's get back into the racing. This is our final race of the Gt4 Championship here at Racing Club International. The final race of Season 2. We already have our Season 2 winner, but there is still a third place up for grabs. And of course, all of these drivers want to finish as high up on the leaderboard as they possibly can. So they are all putting their hearts down on this track to see what they can do. Harry Conway, currently race 1's winner, is a good 3 seconds ahead of Martin Lawrence in the BMW. He's going to try keep that space as we move into the sort of last 12 minutes of the race. The real fun is happening right now, which is what you're looking at, and it is of course the 2 Maseratis and the 2 Porsches battling it out. Sazkola and Jazobaski have Hilikalio and Hasefoot on their tail, and it's really a nice little mashup here. Let's see, and as I say that, I really think one of the Porsches is going to take a risk now, and they're going to get moving to try see if they can move one ahead of the Maseratis, George.
Hilikalio in a good place to be that Porsche, to bring the attack first. Pavel Jarzbalski going to have to stay defensive, going to have to hug those inside apexes. Cannot afford to put a tire miss here onto the sand. Does drag a little bit of a tire, does allow Hilikalio to just close down that gap between them. Hilikalio also realizes that has to be at least a distance away to be able to plan a move as well. Can't be hugged up right on the back. There's not enough straight line speed opportunities on this track to really just sit in a slip and get through. You've got to get yourself alongside at some point, and Floris Hasefoot is going to be looking at this, smacking his lips and realizing that opportunities will present themselves. If he just stays in this position, those 2 cars go side by side, it's going to force the error. Oh, the Maserati dragging another tire on the dirt on the way up the hill, a place you don't want to lose time, and is now going to just bunch everybody up. A cork in the bottle of champagne is Jarzabowski, Hilikalio, and Hasefoot, the bubbly nectar within the bottle, waiting to explode, and sitting right in the poised position to strike if the iron is hot.
You made me think of champagne now, which we'll get at the end of the next 10 minutes as we finish off this race. But right now, it is going to be this battle between the Porsches and the Maseratis. I mean, Jarzabowski's doing a fantastic job of keeping them shut down. Can he do it for the next 10 minutes, though?
Oh, I mean, 10 minutes, it feels like a long time, but around here with short lap times, it's not a long time at all. You just got to keep focused and just keep holding those lines that you've sort of grated into your head. You've got them superimposed, you know what you need to do, and you just got to keep focused on it. But the difficult thing I think that comes out from the Maseratis is that they do have that lack of traction control. They do have that lack of the anti-lock braking system. So it's so imperative that they don't look in those mirrors, see the pressure coming down, and make a mistake that isn't their own. You know, you don't have those safety precautions, the electronic stabilization that is going to pick you up if you do loop the car a little bit too much. It is going to be catastrophic. So you're focusing on what you've practiced out there, but then still trying to regulate all of those controls as well. And a big cut coming out through the corkscrew. You've got to also be careful that you don't exceed the track limits here. Drive-through penalty in this position is going to put you so far down the field. It wouldn't be worth gaining that advantage if you had just sort of yielded it out to one position behind. You'll lose far more going in through a drive-through. But Jarzabowski doing a great job here. Hilikalio is going to see that mistake getting made, breaks it a little bit too late. Does Jarzabowski into the final corner, and that influences his run for 2 Porsches. Both of them are now going to be able to get themselves past.
Just that one small mistake. This is the thing about Laguna. You make that small mistake, you hit that sand, you slow right down, and you just give everyone the opportunity to overtake you. So the 2 Porsches now have broken the Maseratis up. There's some space there for them. They've taken over. And I mean, I think who's smiling here is definitely McLaughlin, who's been able to create quite a little bit of space for himself to move away from the Porsche Maserati battle. Says Carter's got to be careful now, though, because Hilikalio and Hasefoot are coming for him next. Jarzabowski's playing catch up, and here we have P2 Martin Lawrence. He's also playing catch up, trying to see if he can get hold of Harry Conway with only sort of 7.5 minutes to go in this race. This is the final race of the season. Martin Lawrence, if he wants to finish first, he's got to put it all on the line now, right at the end, to see if he can take over from Harry Conway.
I mean, it's not just about the championship winnings. It's you know, for Lawrence, we think that, you know, in the position that he finishes now, he should wrap up and get a 3rd overall. But it would be nice to have a victory in one of the two races. Harry Conway set to, take home a double victory here in the final round at Laguna Seca, which is certainly something special for the number 28. Lawrence wants to have that name in the hat and be able to add that to the resume too. Crozen, who seemed to have a great start coming out, unfortunately made that mistake and now seems to just be licking the wounds and having to settle for what will be P3. Fimbres Casas closing down 2.8 seconds is the gap between them, which is quite a big gap here at Laguna. But for Fimbres Casas, it's not going to be that big. We've seen the difference that has been made from that number 10, starting down the bottom of the field in race 1 and getting a better start out in race 2. It's not done and dusted till that checkered flag waves, and our drivers out on the circuit will all be very aware of those facts.
That Connection Lost Racing BMW in the toothpaste colors does not want to finish second. He definitely wants to grab himself a first place before the season is done. So he's chasing down Harry Conway, but Harry Conway had a flawless race 1. We know that Lawrence got past him at one point, and Harry very quickly claimed that P1 back, which means that to catch Harry is going to be one thing, but once you've caught him, to try to get past him is a whole other thing. And with only, less than 6 minutes to go, Martin Lawrence is going to have to put everything out there. I said that earlier. He's going to have to do it again. Look at Hasefoot now challenging Hilakalio, saying, you know what, thanks for all the work you did. You got us in front of Jazobaski, but now I'd quite like to get in front of you.
Yeah, you've done the dirty work, haven't you? Says Hasefoot to Hilakalio. Maybe you've used too much of your tires, and I can get a little bit more grip on you. But the Porsche's coming in strong, trying to see if they can just shuffle their positions up between one another. Sokola still a clean 3.2 seconds ahead of these two, so if they do have any hopes of catching, it's going to have to be a collaborative effort at this point, or a massive mistake coming out from the 146, which is not untoward. We've seen weirder things happen in the races that we've broadcast here.
We've seen some pretty weird things happen. Let's see now how this goes down. Hasefoot, Hilakalio, Jazobaski, and Sazkola. That's the battle for the mid-pack.
Battle for the mid-pack indeed. Down towards the back of the field, we see there's some pretty big gaps coming out. So these are sort of the places that we want to focus on. We see that Lawrence is catching to Conway as well. Stu whispering in my ear that there could be a change for the lead at some point. That number 28, not entirely safe from the 171, 1.1 seconds between them, and less than 3 or 4 tenths of a second between Hasefoot and Hilakalio, 0.363 to be exact, and that is certainly looking a lot smaller as the number 20 comes through into the penultimate corner, carrying a lot more speed. Now, the final corner to go, the two of them are going to be in a lot of trouble. They're catching up to Sokola, and Jarzabowski is on their heels as well. So 4 cars in shot here, all for position, and all trying to take home what would be defended by Sokola for 6th place.
I mean, this is the thing. Sokola's doing, I feel like I'm going to commentate as curse him now, but he has been doing a really good job of keeping them all away. But look at this. They're like angry little fish chasing him down. I don't know what's with my fish references tonight. It's quite strange. But there you are. Angry little fish chasing Sazkola down. With only 3.5 minutes to go, though, I mean, defending this, that's all he needs to focus on right now. Just don't look back. Keep going forward and defend your lines as much as you can.
Good old racing at its finest here in the USA at Laguna Seca for the final round and the final race in the Gt4 Championship Season 2. It's been so fun going to each circuit and getting to have 2 races and both of them having completely different storylines to one another. A lot different to the single race events that we're so used to, just one qualifying setting you up for the grid that you go through to. So we've seen how important quali becomes. And we've just seen how so many of these drivers have used that to their advantage. Look at this gap closing down. Lawrence and Conway now almost half a second between them. That gap started at 2.3 seconds, maybe 2 minutes ago. And that has just been whittled down to next to nothing. Lawrence, eyes on the prize, and prize would be first place. Conway wants to make it a double victory out here in the States. And what a way it would be to end off with a bang for Conway, finding the podium twice and making it the top rung of that in both the races.
It would be fantastic for Conway. That's what he wants, but he's going to have to contend with Martin Lawrence, who has had an incredible season too. He started numerous times right at the back of the pack, and he was able to move himself up 10, 11, 12 positions. He's currently sitting third on the series. If he can keep it in the top two, he will claim that third place in the series, but I think that he'll want to finish this potentially with a first place in this final race here at Laguna. So he is speeding up towards Conway. And the thing about Martin Lawrence, you have to remember in this BMW, is if you make a mistake, he will take advantage of it. So all Conway has to focus on now is driving the best laps of his life here at Laguna for the next 1.5 to 2 minutes and making sure he doesn't make a single mistake, because if he does, Martin Lawrence will see it and he will take advantage of it.
Oh, indeed, and I mean it's been quite nice to see. Final lap then of this race coming in, race 2 almost coming to a close. The gap extending out. We saw Lawrence dragging a tire on the way up to the top of the corkscrew. That was costly. Cost him almost an entire second, as he now sits 1.3 seconds behind Conway. Conway looking good in this position to make it double victories out here. Just got to get round the rest of the very treacherous circuit, does Conway. But Lawrence, I mean, Sam, you hyped him up a couple of times throughout the season, and I must say, out of all the drivers that you could have picked, what a driver to hype up. It's not just been in this series that we've seen him drive, and for Martin Lawrence, it's been a stellar performance. We can't take away from Neto and Lima, who both were very dominant in every single other race. Unfortunately, weren't able to make it out into the final rounds here. But it has made for a great race for the other drivers. Maybe a little bit of hope getting added to them, a little torch of light burning out, knowing that those two leading Porsches weren't entering into this race. But for Harry Conway, this is looking good to be a double header, a double victory in his number 28 representation for Triple R. You saw his team name, a bit of a meme lord himself. You heard that new Mike Jones, and we certainly have. We heard it bangs. And what also bangs is taking home 2 victories back-to-back at Laguna Seca. And the victory goes to Harry Conway, finishes up in P1. Stu's got the drone out to celebrate Conway taking home the double victory. Martin Lawrence deciding to go for a big slidey boy. He ventures into the pit lane just temporarily. Both of them going to go and park it out and play bumper cars.
I think Martin Lawrence could do the big slide to celebrate, because with that second place, he claims himself third place on the Season 2 points board, which means he gets to podium for Season 2. Crozen comes in P3. That's the best he's done all season. He'll be really happy with that. Fimbris Casas in 4th. McLaughlin in 5th. Sazcola, I don't know how he did it, but he kept himself in P6 for a good 10 minutes, defended from the Porsches, and they come home in 7th and 8th. Haasef would actually claim 7th, so was able to overtake Hilikaliyo at some point. Jazabowski comes in at 9th, George.
Yeah, Billy Octane then rounding out the top 10. Smith coming home in 11th. Wig in 12th. Will Roberts in 13th. Bryant takes home 14th. Ryan Gill will take home 15th place from pit road. And Tom Bryant going for a big slide there as well towards the end. I think a lot of the drivers here just celebrating the end of their championship, and certainly been a fun series to broadcast and commentate on. The GT4s brought the noise, they brought the hype, and it was a lot of fun to see them as Tom Bryant now with the big wiggle gang on the way down to the start-finish straight. We'll round out all the cars here in the series. Fensick then also not finishing up and taking home a 16th place, but that 107 did not have a great race in race 1 and 2. It was just not the way that Aston Martin probably wanted to round out the series.
Definitely not his day, but it is, of course, Miguel Neto's day, our Season 2 champion for the Gt4 Championship, and our Season 1 champion, Thiago Lima, takes second place, and of course, third on that points board, Martin Lawrence in the BMW. What incredible racing we've had a chance to see. What incredible drivers. It's been 6 weeks, 12 races. And you know what, George, I'm going to miss all of these drivers. I feel like we've got to know them now. And there you go. I mean, this is the end of Season 2.
This is the end of Season 2, but we will certainly see you guys as soon as we can. There'll be more commentary opportunities for us to come back in. If you have liked what we have done out here, please don't feel shy to leave us a like, a share, a little cheeky comment goes a long way as well. Join us in our Discord too if you want to get involved in the racing action. If you want to get involved in doing commentary or being involved in the stewarding team, there's many opportunities there. Just get involved, get into the Discord. You can find out more places to see how you can be a part of Racing Club International. Of course, Racing Club International in partnership with Race Department, AK Informatica, Raceface Speed Labs, and Sim Racing GP. Thanks you for enjoying your time spent out with us. It's been a fabulous series. My name is George Smith. I've been commentating alongside Sam Wright. And of course, we've had Stewie out in the chat, just helping us out with all the cameras and beautiful broadcasts that you see. So a big shout out goes to Stewie behind the scenes, and of course to my co-caster Sam for being involved. We hope to see you guys soon. And we hope you have a good evening or day for wherever you are joining us in the world. We'll see you soon.